This is Jilliana Ranicar-Breese, and this is part 3 of my interview with Malcolm Palle. Malcolm, you're in Romania, a rather unusual place to have been during that decade, in the communist era, of course. How did you manage?
I remember the first 2 months were I just wanted to come home. I really didn't get into it. I didn't enjoy the work, and the clients were all complaining, and I really missed my friends and I missed my social life. And then one day something just clicked. I was struggling with the language, and one day something just clicked, and I started picking up the language.
Did you have an epiphany?
I don't know if it was I can't put it down to, it might have been, but I can't put it down to any one particular thing. It just, things started to fall into place.
And you learnt the language?
And I broke the back of the language and I started understanding it better, and things got easier. And I got more familiar, and then I think for the rest of the season I absolutely loved it. Really, because things had settled down, that the resorts were working better.
How many seasons did you do?
Well, I ended up doing 3 seasons on the coast, and they were the next year I worked for a larger company. I got a better job as a manager because I managed to pick up the language sufficiently and proficiently in the first year.
But did you start travelling around
yes,
the country?
The second year I had a job as an area manager, so speaking the language, got the job, had 10 staff. Some of them were friends under me, and who I'd known as friends, and they were working under me afterwards, which was great. And then at the beginning of the season, I was working in the mountains, and then at the end of the season, I'd go into the mountains as well, because the coast sort of the season on the coast had finished. So. Then Bucharest, spent a bit of time in Bucharest doing coach tours as well. So the work season went from May to September, and that changed the following 2 years. I went out there in April and came back in end of October.
So how many years were you involved in
I was
Romania?
involved in that for 3 years.
And then
I started a travel agency again in business with my brother-in-law, and then I set up a tour operator because I really wanted to do more with Romania, and I saw this as an opportunity where I had a bit of expertise. So I set up with a partner at the time a travel company specialising in Romania, which there weren't many at the time. So that was
still communist, right?
Still communist,
yeah.
And a lot of support from the Romanian Tourist Office for what we were doing, so it kind of worked as a small business. But I got drawn into other things, that wasn't enjoying it as much, wasn't getting on particularly well with my business partner at the time, and then I left, we just agreed to split. I didn't have any idea what I was going to do, and then I ran into someone who was selling mobile phones, and that's when I got into that. He offered me a job in London as a
so that would be the 80s, yeah,
85,
when mobile phones first came in.
1985, yeah. And then I became a salesman, and I didn't know what selling was up till then. I kind of knew how to persuade people, and I knew that there was a format called selling that was effective, although I didn't know the techniques and the skills, and I learned that through working with.
Were you trained?
I was, yes, yeah. But these phones were £2,000 each.
Wow.
So you could only sell them to people who had that kind of money. So it was a kind of an access to businesses, and also to a lot of very wealthy people. I got to meet, I went to Ringo Starr's office, although I didn't meet him in that initial kind of meeting.
Did you meet him later?
Yeah, well, he came in and looked at the phone, and he didn't like it. He didn't think it looked like a phone, and his assistant didn't. Because mobile phones are very big, and if you actually imagine what a phone is, or was known as up to that time, you pick it up and you listen to a dining tone. So he picked it up, put it to his ear, and couldn't hear a dialing tone. His assistant said, he won't like this. It's just, it's too cumbersome. He probably doesn't want to be... She wanted him to have one because she wanted to be able to get hold of him. And so that was the whole idea. So I never managed to actually sell him the phone, but nonetheless I think...
Who did you sell to? Anybody I would have heard of?
Just trying to... They're mostly businesses, mostly corporate kind of stockbrokers at the time, some art dealers and some wealthy people. But I'm just trying to remember. There was the I can't remember
never mind. It's not important.
Yeah,
not
important. There weren't. Another record producer. Her name's completely.
Don't worry about it.
Slipped my mind. She was an ex-girlfriend of Rod Stewart, but I can't remember her name.
Okay. Yeah. So people in the pop world obviously were interested. Yes.
Anyone with £2,000 to spend could have bought one.
Yeah.
So that was it. And there was a lot of comedy in that. A lot of, absolutely, because salesmen are very humorous as well, and they like to think they're funny. So one of the, an anecdote from there was these phones we used to have complaints with those because the network hadn't been hadn't developed. So I just remember one chap, salesman who I got a complaint from his client, and he said, I bought this phone off of Clive Walters, I think that was his name, and he said that this phone would work in Swindon, and I'm down in Swindon.
I've been swindled.
No, it wasn't. I'm sorry, completely different to that, and I've ruined the story as well. But he said, I was told this phone would work in Sweden. Because it was manufactured in Sweden. And I've just come back from Sweden, it doesn't work. So I phoned up the salesman, I said, you told this customer that his phone would work in Sweden? He said, really? What was his name? I said, Mr. Johnson. I said, Mr. Johnson, I remember Mr. Johnson. No, I thought he asked me if it would work in Swindon. And of course he made that up. He said Sweden, and he knew he said Sweden. That was kind of that was one of the little anecdotes. But we had it was a very fun place to work. It was a very great fun environment. Of course, that was an era when we rode a wave, of popularity of those in that technology.
Well, I want to hear how you got into improv. I think we'll talk about that in the next tranche. So thank you very much. We're done with the telephones.